and why Satori is a sudden awakening. Because it has to be done without the slightest warning. Now, but then I pointed out that the moment you have any idea about doing this, you've already ceased to be sudden. That is to say, the moment you seek for some spiritual attainment, which is becoming a Buddha, becoming awakened, becoming released, getting in there, you've already served notice upon your creditors. So that somehow or other, you find that you have to do it without intending to do it. And that is a double bind, which you impose upon yourself when you say, I must find a way of doing this spontaneously. That's the old basic double bind. You must be spontaneous. You are commanded, or you command yourself to do something which is acceptable only if it happens spontaneously. Then you think about that and say, well, what a fix that is. Here am I saying, I must be surprised, and I'm going to lay plans to surprise myself. So by going through this, you discover naturally that can't be done. You can't surprise yourself on purpose. Yet that's what you have to do. So what about it? You come to a state of total paralysis. You're stuck. The one thing that is terribly important to be done can't be done. It has to happen. It really does if you're earnest about this. You want to get out of the trap. But you can't do anything about it, either actively or passively. But then as you begin to see what you are doing all the time, you notice a very odd fact, which is that you can't help being spontaneous. If I say to you, good morning, and you say good morning, what is that? Did you plan this answer? Did you make preparations to grow your hair? Do you make decisions about having blue eyes? You see, about breathing? Is this all planned? About beating your heart? And what about your thinking? Even if it's very blocked thinking, even if you feel from a certain point of view that you're all mixed up, what is going on anyway? You see, you can't stop it. It's like trying to, we were discussing the Gurdjieff thing yesterday, the self-remembering exercise, the attempt to live completely in the present. Well, that's not only a Gurdjieff idea, that's a very ancient yoga and Buddhist discipline, to be completely here and now. But of course, as you pursue this, you discover you can't do it, because you couldn't even know where to go shopping unless you made plans and started thinking about the future. So you couldn't move. But then you discover, you see, that in the long run there's nothing to think about except the here and now. There really isn't anything else. Because even when you make plans for the future and you remember the past, you're doing it all in the present. Your memory is a present activity. There's no way of not being self-remembering and having presence of mind. So when you discover that, there's nothing left to you but to have a good laugh. Well, now, I want to develop to a greater extent something I only touched on yesterday afternoon when we were discussing anxiety and laughter and the relationship between the two. I suggested that anxiety and laughter are really the same phenomenon, but seen from different points of view. As we all know, we can have shudders of horror and shudders of delight, tears of grief and tears of joy. And it's the same shudders and the same tears in either case, but they have a completely different meaning. Now, life is a matter of oscillation. Light is vibration. It's the whole time and all the way through. The question is, how are you going to interpret that? Is it tremble, 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 or is it laugh, laugh, laugh? That's the great thing. And sometimes it's one, and sometimes it's the other. So that the whole thing of the Joker is he comes into being, as it were, at the point when the anxiety interpretation of the trembling becomes the laughing interpretation. We were talking about monks who had skulls in their cells to remind them of mortality. And we think a grim thing. The skull is a grim thing. But Chesterton had the poem about the skull. Chattering finch and waterfly are not merrier than I. Here among the flowers I lie, laughing everlastingly. No, I may not tell the best. Surely, friends, I might have guessed death was but the good king's jest. It was hid so carefully. So you can see the skull not as a grim thing, but as a laughing thing. It's all that's left of a human being. And all the surface is peeled off, and nothing but this beautiful bone remains. It laughs. Now why? What is it about death being a jest? We discussed the problem of the zebra. You remember whether a zebra is a yellow horse with black stripes or a black horse with yellow stripes. And of course, you can see it either way. And you can argue till all is blue about which side is right. And let's suppose that a black horse is a horse of ill omen, even though striped with yellow. And a yellow horse, a horse of joy and good omen, even though striped with black. This is our eternal problem. We are in the state of egocentric consciousness, firmly convinced that death is a threat. We are so convinced of this, even though individuals may say, well, I'm not really afraid of death. What I'm afraid of is dying in an unpleasant way. Nevertheless, since almost all moralists and people concerned with ethics seem to agree, whatever their differences of opinion, that survival is a good thing. In some sense, if not survival in this body, even the most, the people who would rather be dead than red, firmly believe that that is true because they believe there is a hereafter, where they can go and where they can be rewarded for the courageous stand against evil which they have taken. You see? So that's still some kind of insistence on the value of survival. And we all cling to this idea of survival with tremendous passion. But we have been fooled, because survival is an important ideal only so long as you have bothering you the bugbear of death, that the world might stop altogether, and that your death, so far as you are concerned, is curtains forever. And that is really the bogey. You see, that's all very well to rationalize and say, no, it's not death I'm afraid of, it's the pains of death. But if you think about it deeply, there are several stages in thinking about it deeply. The first stage is the real horrors of endless night, of the futility, of the whole conception that one's own life, or indeed the whole life of the cosmos, might be nothing but a flash, and beyond that, nothing. Nothing in all directions. When, for example, we think of the physicist's idea that the universe is running down, that all energy is seeking a stable state. Supposing, for example, to give an illustration of what they mean, I have a jar of black pepper and a jar of salt, and I pour them together into another jar, and I can see the white salt and the black pepper fairly well delineated. Then I start shaking the jar, and slowly, the black and the white disappear into a gray. That can never be sorted out again into black and white. In this sort of way, as things go on, the universe, they say, it tends to attain a stable state, to run down until that's the end. And nobody knows how it could possibly start all over again. But I always say, and I feel it in a sort of funny, intuitive way, that what happened once can happen again. If this world started at some time, supposing there was a colossal explosion which set all these galaxies flying out, then what existed before that explosion must surely have been something like the stable state to which we shall run down in the end. And if it went bang once, there's absolutely no reason why it shouldn't go bang again. I suppose there are temperaments in logic. I have a temperament whereby I just cannot, it seems to me absolutely basic that what happened once can happen again. But there are other people who so cherish the unique that they can conceive the idea of something like existence happening only once. But you see, something that happens only once doesn't happen at all. What happens if a given sound consists of only one vibration? What is the upcrest of a wave apart from the downcrest? Can you conceive that? That's the same koan as what is the sound of one hand. You see, it always takes two. You can't have a purely left-sided person. Imagine. So, in this way, just as you can't have just one vibration, it's like the saying, the greatest strength of mind is to eat one peanut. and so it can hardly be done. So there isn't just one vibration. And a dit but no da sort of thing. You have to have it do more. So in just the same way, when you magnify this principle, there isn't just one cosmos, or one big explosion that starts and stops. All stopping implies starting. Someone just wrote to me, we haven't parted because we never met. So, the whole point of saying this is the realization that existence is eternal. The going out of existence implies the coming in. And St. Thomas had some points here when he said there could never have been a time when there was not being, because if there had been a time when there was nothing in nothing to produce something. But he didn't quite have the point, because what he didn't see was that nothing is productive in the sense that you can't have nothing without something. They go together. And all this thing is an argument, again, about whether the zebra is yellow striped black or black striped yellow. And what we see is that the black and the yellow, the darkness and the light, are simply two phases of the same. And that realization is exactly what transforms anxiety into laughter. Suddenly to see that you just, after all this anxiety, that you don't have anything to worry about. Now, that doesn't mean that there will not in our future lie some extremely painful experiences, or experiences that we would ordinarily interpret as horribly painful. We may all die of ghastly diseases, or of radiation burns, or of unimaginable things. But look here. I very briefly touched on pain yesterday and the way pain is interpreted. If you interpret pain as something that is destroying you and is going in the direction of total death, then it's very serious indeed. And it's perfectly terrifying. But I've been investigating experiences of people who've undergone torture. I don't know if anybody in this room has. It's always possible. But and then if so, you can correct me. But the worst part of torture is the beginning, when of course you're full of all your illusions and all your fears about black and white and the terror that black may win. But it's said that as torture proceeds, it slowly changes the state of mind of the victim to a kind of drunken, masochistic giving in to the torture, so that it becomes something that he cooperates with. And that if the torturer notices this, he knows he's through and has to kill him. So, in other words, there is a point at which pain becomes an experience without having a negative interpretation put upon it. It becomes, in other words, converted into ecstasy. It simply becomes, you see, a way of going through extraordinarily far out
I didn't mean to derail your conversation.
No, I think it was good. What's dead anyway. I mean, we've been at it for even just since I've been in here, Steve. And I don't know. I feel like you either spend all day on this conversation, or you kind of just acknowledge it for what it is, and then you don't touch it with a 10-foot clown pole, because, you know what I mean? There's no in.
I've just been listening and managing in the background. I've been letting you guys talk.
I meant viewing the general sense, because it's one of those conversations where, yeah, you either spend all day with, you know, sweat pouring down your forehead, or you just, I don't know. Not to discourage anyone from talking about it, but
as far as I'm concerned, no worries whatsoever as far as I'm concerned.
Sorry, Caleb, I talked over you. What were you about to say? Or not Caleb, Elliot. I spoke over you.
I'm in my car, so I don't know.
Just like that.
But yeah, I kind of feel like that. You know, you can just stay in a car all day and not really arrive at any conclusion, I guess. But I feel like that generally when I do research and stuff. Like for instance, the debate with Robert Sapolsky and Dan Dennett. At the start of that, I was excited because I know who both those people are, and by the end of it, I was disappointed. It was like watching a boxing match with both boxers having their arms behind their backs. I just felt like, you know, nothing really got accomplished. It was like
I'm sorry, Elliot. Who did you say was debating?
Dan Dennett and Robert Sapolsky. They debated, you know, does free will exist? You know? What you call it? Abe was actually citing Robert Sapolsky. I don't know if you were. I think you were there. Yeah. But Sapolsky is he's a biologist. He's a big proponent of determinism. And then, you know, of course, Dan Dennett's compatibilist.
Yeah, Dan Dennett's like the household name. When I was first, like, breaching the barrier, you know, as far as that whole conversation goes,
Are they even saying anything? That's what I don't understand. It's like, what are they saying? They're not talking about anything.
I used to hate it. Like, I used to go home and scrub because I still felt like even though they gave
They're
you,
just
like,
referencing these fucking like internet intellectuals or whoever it is they're talking about.
فقط این که خود ایشون پر از
Don Diego.
کردن آدم ها و یه دفعه منو بردن بالا.
دلم برم خیلی تنگ شده.
اینم خودش. بعد اون وقت موضوع اینه که من که از پسشون نردم. من که از کسی کم نمیارم که الحمدلله.
من این کار رو سر من میکنن. هر اتاق میرم میان اون تو جای چیزی تیکه میندازن و میرن بیرون.
I don't know if I want to look at bed.
Or just 20 dudes that just jacked off in that bed, and it's like
Also
one less
done.
than there will be tomorrow.
Shit, I only just think about how comfortable the mattress is. God, you guys are so
Yeah, they're
gross.
staying at the wrong hotels is really what's happening here. When you can rent by the hour, you know.
I'm like, these are really nice pillows. This mattress is great.
I always think about how I'm thankful that they have really industrial laundry machines and stuff, and I hope they did it.
Yeah, well,
I always pull out my black light and look at which side lights up the most, and that's where I choose to sleep.
It's the lucky side.
I actually prefer that. I know it's better used, probably softer.
You know, I do, like I think about it in hotel rooms a little bit, but, like, you know, I don't, like, whatever. But I really think about it in, like the house I bought, I'm just like, which room has had the most sex? I want to know. I'll never know.
Or death.
You'll never know.
You can just ask your
They'll
mom.
never believe you. They'll never believe you.
In my house?
Like, I know the couple, like the lady I bought our house from, her husband had died like 5 years earlier. I kind of wanted to ask if it was in the house or not, but I'm like, maybe I'd rather not know.
Yeah, I do think about that one also, but for some reason that doesn't really bother me.
It doesn't bother me. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm just curious, right? But like, I'm more like I'm for some reason I've always thought more about the
Well, the sex is for sure happening everywhere, right? So like, yeah.
Right. I've also thought about that, like, you know, in the middle of like, I've literally thought about it in the middle of sex, like on the kitchen counter in a house that I rented. I'm like, probably not the first time. This is a good.
I have never found a counter that was actually a good spot. Just saying.
Honestly.
Beds still are the best.
Gotta get them adjustable desks.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, I'm tall, so I like a bed with, like, you know, a really thick mattress or something that's more elevated. It's a lot easier than some of these hotels.
Yeah, so I actually, the bed frame that I have in Florida, I built myself, and I very specifically sized it for the mattress for the exact correct.
Yeah, the one I have right now, I actually built myself as well, and I just couldn't, you know, I was looking at one, and I just couldn't find one that I really liked, and that was, like, built well enough, you know?
Yeah,
so,
dude.
Mine's, like, over, like, instead of, like, 4x4s, I used, like, 4 1x4s and, like, laminate them together, basically.
Dude, that's exactly what I fucking did. Oh, I used 1x2s or something.
Yeah.
And or 1x3s, and yeah, and I glued and screwed them together to make like the whole platform.
And then I put whatchamacallit, you know, fucking on the outside of it. What do you call that?
Yeah, like a fascia, right?
Yeah, what the fuck? Okay, fine. Right now, but anyway, yeah, so I did that and thing, man. Yeah. So they had an earthquake down there, Jack.
What's the point of making it, like, you see you have it at a certain height, or you have a custom layout?
Yeah, that was part of it, so it's at a better height, you know, just so that it's like, because I also, like, previous to that, I had, like, you know, like it wasn't from IKEA, but it was kind of like that, like, European style, where there's no box frame, and it's just a mattress on top of the slab.
Oh, it's
like
platform.
Low. Yeah, that shit was just way too low. And if you're trying, you know, make some love on that bed, it's like I'm supposed to be on my knees if I'm on the edge of the bed, you know, it's like I gotta...
Yeah, no, it's like somewhere between your knees and standing that is just not plausible. No, dude, I 100%, like, there was when I was building mine, I literally, like, found something that was the exact thickness of my, like, box for, you know, like, I was, like, using thick, like, boxes and things to find, like, I'm, like, humping a box in my living room, like, trying to find the right height exactly.
Saturday night already?
It's a shame you put so much work into a project that won't get any use.
Literally.
No, I'm just picturing fish fucking a box.
No, dude, no, that frame has more than served its lifelong.
Careful, don't share too much, or you might have to delete the app.
I've always been pretty good about that. Like, I never share anything that I'm uncomfortable with.
Is Chris gone?
We don't know.
Is he gone? Oh, okay. I thought that was a reference to his movie.
Yes, it was a reference to Chris.
No, he's still with us, if that's what you're asking.
I don't mean on Earth. Like, well, I mean...
Yeah, so you might still be a bit more.
He'll get up.
Yeah, Laurel made him uncomfortable enough that he rage quit or something.
I can see why he was a little ticked off. But,
it's like when it's nighttime and you're trying to go to sleep, but you know people might come fucking kill you at any moment.
What kind of bullshit speak is that, Luca? Nathan, Tyler, I'm glad to see you're the only moderators. Hope you're keeping it down and keeping all these N-word lions and kings and bullshit artists, keeping them in check. God bless you all, and God bless the chillism. You're my #1 YouTube videos. I love you all. I can't thank you.
You know, I can see how when you have dementia, I can see how if you have dementia, it can get to you. Because like even if you don't have dementia, like even if you don't have dementia, it can still get to you.
There's different types, right? So you get the aggressive ones. The aggressive ones don't scare me because you kind of see them coming, right? The one that scared me working with dementia patients, I had this little old woman, right? And she would be talking to herself in the corner. She was pale as fuck. And it was like a horror movie. And I would have to do every 15-minute observations on her. This one time I walked into her room, right? Bruh. As I tried to walk in, the door hit me and slammed me on the face. And then I don't know how, she was just in the corner. And she was like, he's standing behind you. He wants to talk to you. There ain't nobody in the room with her. It's 3 in the morning. I'm scared. Who are you talking to?
Bro.
Who are you talking to?
Look, those ones are the worst ones because they're typically the ones that expose like a lot of shit. Like I remember I went up for I was working and I had to go up and collect the sample for a psychology. I had to make a cell block, right? So I went up there with the nurse to go collect it because it's the middle of the night, peaceful, ain't nothing going on. We went into this lady's room, Lisa, and she literally sat there. She was like, the baby keeps crying. And I'm like, trying to talk to her. I'm like, why do you say the baby keeps crying? And she's like, the baby's crying because I killed it. And then she started going into detail about apparently how she killed her granddaughter. And I'm just sitting up there like, yo, what the fuck, bro?
They really
Damn.
themselves. They put that in some stories.
Yes, and I didn't. People, when they're like this, they expose.
What color was she?
I hate to interrupt, but when does this stupidity end and when does something smart begin? Thank you very little, moderators. Put me in your queue.
Miss Lisa,
Yeah.
you said when you were in the room, the door just suddenly closed, and the person said,
No. So I have to. So obviously, I'm doing ward checks, right? So I have like 3 different floors, and there are some patients that I check every 4 hours, every 1 hour, and then there's higher alert patients I have to check every 15 minutes, right? So she was my every 15-minute patient on the night shift that I had to check. I was already scared of her because every time I'm around her, she's always saying, "There's someone that wants to talk to you. He's behind you." And it would always scare the fuck out of me, right? And
certain attitudes towards people who make these evil decisions. It's good because you haven't decided to go evil. But at the end of the day, you have the same elements that any other person on this earth has. You just personally decided not to utilize them. So when there's people who do utilize their evilness, then those people are, ostracized out of the moral community. And I get it because I am part of the moral community. But if I decide to be evil, then that is my choice to be evil. Because the great creator of this universe created all of us to be evil.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
She said most of her lyrics something to me. So how much time do I have to respond to that?
What she about you responding to them? Junior is named in Rodney Jones's lawsuit against Diddy. As groping him, I got you, Reverend. As groping him, trying to do strange things to him.
Yeah, he a black Christopher Columbus. He in the black demo lay. Him and Bieber. That's why he got to taste that little boy's booty hole. They Freemason, occultist, self-actualization, hypnotist, musicians, scam artists, terrorists, criminal, mafioso, godfather, psychopath, murderers, abusers, rapists, criminals to the highest order, psychopath. I guess they didn't like what I had to say. Whoopsie. Must have been a glitch in the matrix. Fucking motherfucking
The
queen.
joke of death. And the principal point that I was making was that death and life, or that is to say, in other words, the interval and the event. Death being the interval between events, between one appearance and another of human beings, in the same way as winter is the interval between the appearance of the leaves in spring and their disappearance in the fall. But there is, you see, the chronic fear that the interval may be all that there is, that the interval may triumph, and there may be no event. And I was trying to show you that there is a polarity between the event and the interval between events, in such a way that you can no more have the one without the other than you can have the crest of the wave without the trough. And that this goes on and on and on in endless cycles, where there are small intervals making up small intervals and waves, which group together and make up a set of intervals and waves, and they in themselves constitute the crest of a larger wave with a much longer trough. And then again there comes the group of intervals and waves on a short rhythm. And that this thing that goes like, you see, like this, you see, that this thing in its turn is the crest of a still greater wave. And that the nature of being is that this is the scheme of things. But the joke about it, what makes it exciting, is the constant anticipation that there might not be anything again after the interval, that it might all come to an end. And the real problem, in order to turn death into a joke, that is to say, suddenly to recover from this terrible anxiety that it might be finished, and then transmute the vibration trembling of anxiety into laughter. It is the same thing. Only the trembling of laughter is the trembling of anxiety seen from a different point of view. Now, what are the things that are obstacles to our being able to see that? It's almost as if life were itself a guru. And you know how gurus throw out tests to their students to see if they can pass these various initiations, all of which require nerve in the face of some formidable obstacle. All fairy stories are full of this. And so life itself throws out all kinds of reasons for supposing that we are faced with something serious instead of something playful.